Oh, how is it going, everybody? Good Sunday morning to you. And yeah, welcome to GPT with me. So this week, lot of stuff been going on. Especially in the AI sphere. It's nuts. It's pandemonium out there. I know a lot of people have been saying like, oh, okay, well, it can't be that nuts. It's not like there's a ton of different like advancements or stuff going on. I think when people say that and people think about that, I think a lot of the time it's a lot to do with GPT or it's a lot to do with Claude or Bing. It's what people have been introduced to so far. It's what people know about so far. So they know about generative AI, they know about Midjourney, they know about some stuff with Adobe, maybe. I'm not even sure how many people know about that kind of thing. I don't think it's very many. The amount of people who still don't know about GPT is still it's alarming almost to me. Now we're starting to see where AI is moving into other spaces outside of just being generative AI in your pocket per se, or generative AI at work. It's now starting to affect medical. It's now starting to affect industrial. It's now starting to affect architectural. It's spreading like crazy. So it is becoming the norm that I have talked about so many times before. I've mentioned that this isn't a tech that is like computers. Okay, like computers are one thing, and they're everywhere. So if you can imagine how everywhere computers are, that is the same breadth at which AI is going to be. It's going to be that prevalent everywhere that you look, everywhere that you go. So let's start right. Apple has already launched its fairly weak iPhone 15, but at least at the same conference, what was most appealing to me about it and what I took away from it, if you can say that there was anything appealing about Apple, at least at that conference, we all know that that phone is a joke. Let's just get past that. I don't think that it was about the phone. So I'm not going to harp on that. I'm not going to stay on that too long. I think it was more about the technology that they're looking at putting forward in the future. So seeing that they are very health focused when it comes to AI tech and technology, and I don't know about the sustainability aspect of it, them trying to put themselves forward in the market as being the most sustainable uh, tech tech space, or tech company. I don't care. I don't know that a lot of other people care. I'm sure that Apple users care. I guess that's part of the mantra. I'm not entirely sure. I think the majority of Apple users use Apple products because they're easy to use and because they're simple to use. I don't think that they use Apple products because they actually believe in the same mantra. I know this to be the case because they wouldn't reel every time there is a change to their Apple product. What I really do love, though, is that the EU finally slapped Apple hard enough to say, hey, stop changing your formats to being unique formats that are proprietary to your devices. Please change them so that you're not forcing other people to buy products that they shouldn't necessarily have to buy in order to actually to get it to work with your phone. So I herald that. I think that was a really good measure. So so getting beyond that, okay, because I ended up sorry, I ended up continuing talking about the phone. What I like about Apple with AI is that they're definitely going to be integrating the capabilities and from your iWatch into the health aspects of your phone with AI that's going to be able to aid that, right? So if you haven't looked at stuff that I've posted lately, Google has its own Palm 2 doctor, right? So like Health Palm 2. I forget exactly what it's called. I think it's like Dr. Palm or something like that, but it's a Palm 2 generative model that's specific to health. Chat or OpenAI has its own sort of Dr. GPT, same thing. There's a lot of independent models out there that aren't necessarily Google related, aren't necessarily GPT related. They're independent models that were built specifically, again, these very honed in models that were built either for medical or for another purpose or another use, that they're starting to come to fruition now and get a lot more, make a lot more headway into the market, into the medical market. And I think Apple is going to tap into that, start using the biometrics from your watch and from whatever it can glean off your phone in order to start helping to detect, heart conditions, potential heart conditions, maybe to detect stress levels, to detect various things about yourself that you're not monitoring. Let's face it, we're all too busy with work to really be busy, to take the time for ourselves and to take the time for our own health. So here comes this AI assistant. Okay, here comes this AI ability that's going to be able to help us in an everyday capacity, that's going to be able to help us to take care of our health, to take care of ourselves, to help monitor those things so that we don't let them get out of control. Right. I think it's a great move forward. I think in that specific scenario, I think it's a really good move for Apple. I don't see a ton of other, it's not as if Samsung is moving to space. So I don't see them having a lot of competition necessarily. Samsung is really, I will say this much, they're very slow to move into this space so far. First, if you're not first, you're last is what I've been going by. That typically has been the case. I will, again, at least Apple being not last to the party, but definitely one of the last to the party. Again, at least they've created sort of a moat for themselves and have started to distance and separate themselves in terms of what they are allowing their AI to focus on and what it is they want their AI to be able to do for their customer. I think that's smart. There are other companies that aren't quite doing that. There are too many companies focused on trying to be the next GPT. And again, I don't think that's a thing. I think that's a huge mistake. I don't think there's a point in chasing after who has the best generative overall generative text model. I think that's a mistake to be made by anybody who's chasing that dream. It's a different story if your generative model is specialized in a particular thing. Once again, GPT, in my opinion, is specialized in a lot of processing tasks. It's good at a lot of different processing stuff. Is it good at writing in in general? It's okay. Why do I continue to use it? I've talked about Claude being better than GPT when it comes to writing. It's true, very true. But again, it's very nuanced. So Claude is better than GPT when it comes to the analysis of text and when it comes to writing long form text. I have used it in a number of different ways when it comes to trying to write posts. Not so good. Doesn't have the same memory capacity that GPT does, doesn't have the same recall methods that GPT does. You can't just ask it to memorize something or to retain something, and you can't really ask it to retrieve an example or retrieve something it's retained. It doesn't, again, it doesn't function in the same way. It's not meant to function in the same way. It's meant to function differently. And I use it still to write various things that are not related to either social or are not related to work. Right. So for like work and social, I use GPT because it's easier for me to program that in and dial it in so that it really is characteristic, especially with custom instructions. So that's something that why I say there's no point in chasing this rabbit is they're constantly kicking out a new feature anytime somebody even gets close to catching up to them. They just, oh, okay, here's a new beta. Here's something we've been sitting on for a little bit, right? So the custom instructions helps to push it a little bit further when it comes to writing. It definitely helps to push it further when it comes to just general problem solving. I've built a lot of different conversations, a lot of different I'm calling them bots. They're not really bots because they don't function in the same method. Was actually talking to someone, Jordan. Let me get the name because I don't want to. I don't want to cheat people out. Jordan, if I butcher your last name, man, I'm sorry. Jordan Riken. Um, really great guy, super, super, super knowledgeable on AI, super knowledgeable on large language models. Showed me Drafter, which I believe that he's also a part of. I'm going to get him on the show at some point so that he can talk to you guys directly about it and show you how awesome it is. Drafter is definitely where like you start building your own bot. It's an application. It's a no code application software where you're able to pull in modules, right? You're able to pull in, let's say, the generative text starting point. Then you can connect that to a GPT module to start doing something. Then you can connect another module to that that maybe is specific to searching the web. On and on and on. You can do these crazy things to where you're no longer limited by memory capacity. You're no longer limited by any sort of real constraints. You are permanently programming these bots, and they are actual bots at that point because you interface with them and they always perform the same function. Again, they never forget. So that we'll get into. I want to get into that because it takes what I'm doing and just puts it on a whole nother level. And I wish I had had the time. I'm actually going to be going on vacation, sort of, going to be away from here for a couple weeks, and still going to be doing the show on Sundays. It's only a couple Sundays, I'll just be doing it remotely, but definitely want to take some time. I'm going to take time during uh, that point and get all my certifications knocked out that I've been waiting to get knocked out, and really start getting into this drafter program because it's not just drafter. There's a lot of no code solutions that are coming out, and it's going to be necessary to understand at least how to work with them. And I'm looking forward to. I haven't seen too many no code solutions that are along the lines of like what you see with workflows in HubSpot. Like that to me is the ideal. That is the very definition of no code solution, right? So it has a ton of modules that you can do that you can use to do very complicated things, and you don't have to know any sort of conditions. You don't have to know how to write any sort of statements, nothing. You're just connecting modules together, and they do cool stuff. Some of the no code solutions I've seen so far are close to that, but they are like workflows with some little bit of custom code. You still have to know how to sort of write a particular parameter to work with this thing. So I want to take some time. I want to work with it so that I get a better understanding of it and I can break it down easier for you guys. I want to get Jordan on here so that he can talk to you guys about it better. He explains it much better than I can, and it's it's just awesome to watch him work. And yeah, also definitely going to get Leonard back on here too to talk more about Midjourney and to show actually show you guys more about Midjourney as opposed to us just talking AI for way too long. But anyhow, back into some big news. Databricks. I've talked to you guys about Databricks a few times, or I've talked about Databricks a few times. So people talk about again that things are starting to slow down in the world of AI and not become quite as big as they used to be. Uh, I'll just say this much: the Databricks is already valued at $43 billion. Yeah, let it sink in. $43 billion company. Okay, they just got a $500 million in funding. So there are, and why is that so crazy? It's so crazy because oh my gosh, I'm on a site and already I'm seeing this stuff now. I'm seeing this coming off of. I went to Reuters to pull up the Databricks story. Uh, this is such a this is so crazy to me. This is so crazy to me. Okay, so this is I've never seen an ad like this before. So at least I can hear it and tell you guys sort of what's going on. Uh, this is nuts to me. I think, oh, this is never mind. This is sort of like, I mean, it's like an ad, but it's also a um it's like an assistant. Oh, wow. Okay, so clearly the facial stuff is not even close to being there yet, right? It's weird because I can see some phenomes that match up, but there's a lot that don't. Obviously, the motors are moving way too slow so far. So it's a little bit strange to me that a company would want a anthropomorphized version to be working with them, even in a meeting room of any type. I say it's a little bit weird, only because I don't know that I don't know how much more. I don't even know what the word is. How much more comfortable that would make you feel as a person, given given what it is. I'm not sure. Okay, so back to the Databricks thing. Why is this so important that Databricks got $500 million this late into the game? It's important because nearly like almost no one is like other companies in other spaces have never gotten this kind of funding this late in the game. Okay. So this isn't the first round of funding that Databricks has gotten. I want to say, let's see. I wish I knew off the top of my head, guys, but I was listening. I just heard about the story yesterday, no, day before. Um, right. So they bought again. They went ahead and bought Mosaic ML. They went and bought a large language model company at the beginning of this year for $1.3 billion. Right. Um, latest valuation is 13% more than what they had initially thought. Uh, I'll find it out. I can't remember. It's the round that they're in though for this amount is way late in the game. So it's not even like they just opened up and that's what they started out with or something like that. It's interesting basically to see how much how much they've been able to pull in such a short amount of time. So all right, so I want to get into it. I don't want to waste a ton of time. It's been 20 minutes already, and I usually hate going that far in. Uh, I don't know if I'll be able to go further than an hour today, maybe a little bit, but I have a lot of stuff to get done before I go out and away and all that. So we'll see. We'll see what kind of time I'm able to dedicate to this today. Okay, so today's episode is all about building a conversation that you can use to write social media posts for you so that you don't have to spend a ton of time doing it. But on top of that, what I found most interesting and the reason that I built this out is that during the day I'm doing work, right? And I'm listening to my podcasts and I'm hearing stuff, I'm hearing about companies, I'm hearing stories, and I want to write this all down and I want to take notes and all this kind of stuff, but I you don't have the time. But what I do have the time for is to jump over to GPT real quick and ask GPT to look up the story. Okay, so that at least it has an understanding of it. It can take the note for me and it can remember the story. But then one step further is if I can ask it to go take a look at the story and then come back and write a post about it. So that I'm not even having to write the post. At the end of the day, when it comes to like, lunch or whatever, whenever I have a break, I can come back to GPT and I've got five, six, seven posts written for me. Okay. If you guys are, I gotta say, if you're already like backing off of this and you're like, oh my God, you're using AI to write posts and I'm reading AI written posts. If you if you didn't notice back in July, then I don't know what to tell you, but you have been reading AI written posts since July, friends. I don't have the time. I just don't have the time. I don't have the time to go do that level of research every single day. I really don't. It has gotten beyond me. I used to be in front of it very easily. And I was even watching YouTube videos every day. There was tons, so much stuff going on. Okay. But you get real life coming back into the picture. You got work coming back into the picture. I'm trying to move forward with career on top of it, trying to move forward with what I'm doing. So I can't dedicate a ton of time to all these outside exploits, and especially to trying to stay on top of AI news. It's crazy. I will show you how I try to do that. But in terms of getting the news out there to you guys and understanding what's going on in the landscape, that's what I love doing the most. In other words, you shouldn't be coming to me to try to find out like how large language models work necessarily, or the technicalities that go into this stuff, because I'm not going to be able to give you that. I don't have that kind of brain. What I do have is a very analytical brain. So what I am able to do very, very well is to go read 20, 30, 50 different stories about AI and put all of the little pieces together and thread everything together to find out who's affecting what's going to change what industry, how things are going to move in a certain direction, what's happening in a direction over here that people aren't even paying attention to because they're too busy looking at this thing over here, right? Things are happening, like let's say with 11 labs, right, with the sound stuff. I can't wait to get my sound stuff hooked up for you guys. Going to have off, you'll probably see a little bit more of a shift in things in terms of what I'm able to show you guys on the platform, just because I'll have a lot more time to spend working on this as opposed to having to work on a lot of other stuff. So anyway, back to it. So I'm trying to cut out time in my day basically by building this bot. And how I'm cutting out the time is, again, I'm not having to make the notes, go back, read the entire article. Do I read the entire article? Yeah, I end up doing it in the end because I'll read the summarization, and maybe there's something in the summarization that I want to know a little bit more about. So I end up going back to the article to read that a little bit more. And that turns out to be a thread where there's a little bit more, and I end up, pretty much going from anywhere like halfway to two-thirds all the way to the end of the article. And it honestly, it does help. I can retain a lot more about what's going on because I'm only having to retain snippets and the most important aspects of those snippets, as opposed to having to retain the entire story, which would also include the journalist or the writer's extra wording on top of it, right, in order to add some flavor to make it their own. So let's get into it. How did we start out? Okay, so we started out by actually creating the instructions and the persona that we use to start out for LinkedIn Larry. Okay, how did we get that far? Well, I got that far by taking scrape data from my personal LinkedIn profile, which we've gone over before, how to do that, and what you can do, what you can pull from it, right? So you can pull engagement metrics to find out what the top words used are, distribution of comments over time, key takeaways. And so we took all of that. I took all of that, me and GPT here, and we took it from just statistics on a sort of statistical level of what was going on. And we crunched that down into a paragraph version of what was going on, and then turned it around into a persona that somebody would take on. And the easiest way of doing that, honestly, was when it stripped all the data, or when it sort of crunched it down into what the necessary parts were, asking it to write it into a multi-paragraph persona, right? So this basically takes all of that and then turns it into definitions of what those things are. And then what I found easiest, as opposed to, you know, you would normally say, okay, well, that's not the persona that I meant, right? So again, using the word persona is pretty bad in this case because it only understands that reference in relation to marketing, right? So it thinks that we're trying to build some type of marketing persona. If I were to ask it straight out the gate without even asking it about my statistics, that's what you would see. You would see like name, goal, all that kind of stuff that would be associated with that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a GPT persona, which is different. We're trying to have it take on the act as if it is somebody, right? So I found it to be easiest to just say, can you rewrite it so that it sounds like a description that you're giving to somebody who intends on playing the role of whoever it is, right? And in that case, it did it perfectly, right? Just told took everything that it was going to do, excuse me, to explain to somebody, and then turned it around and made it a perfect set of directions to be able to give to GPT. So then after that, I also wanted to take that aspect of it and turn it into custom instructions that I could use, both input and output. I say input and output. What we're really talking about is, when it comes to custom instructions, is you've got your bio, which is what's about you, and then you have your preferences, which is how you want GPT to reply to you. Okay. Um, so I've changed these out quite a bit. It's very, very different from how it used to look. Um, you'll see that there's really not much. The bio is actually a little bit different. And so what I want to do is I want to go back and use, if you guys haven't seen this, I keep a doc of everything that I do with GPT. So I don't know if you guys are doing that, but you should, because that's how you're going to keep track of, like, hey, okay, well, what works, what doesn't work, what do I want to use for what different aspect, right? And you can see that I've even started dating stuff, because it's the amount of stuff that I'm doing is just getting, again, getting as ridiculous as this stuff that I'm able to do. At any rate, so I want to replace what I've put in here, for preferences, because that was what I was using. Let me see. And I actually need to save this. I think that's actually my write like me instructions. Nope. Okay. I need to save these. I'll come back to it later. These are really more analysis based, um, like generic analysis writing based instructions, input or bio instructions. And as you can see, they're not written in a bio format. They're written in a instructional format. So let's go to LinkedIn Larry, who has written a bit more of a, written in a little bit more of a bio format, let's say. And then there's also this starting persona that we're going to use as well. So what I've got going is the input instruction, or the bio instructions. My preferences instructions I've changed up to be quite a little bit different in terms of how they work. Again, this is another one that I need to save separately and figure out how I'm going to work with this. Anyway, so it's very, very, very instructionally broken down, right? This is the writing style, do this, don't do this. This is the sentence structure, do this, don't do this. Tone and punctuation, do, don't. So, and you can see final review, do, don't. What I also need to, well, no, I don't need to add it in there. I usually put the general, what is it? Generative adversarial network uh, hook in there, but I'm going to skip that for today because it's not super important. I'm working on a much better sort of output framework. Anyway, so that's how we started out. That's how we sort of got here. And then working around or messing around with chain of density, I don't really want to get into all of that. Let's see some things. No, okay, so let's just start a whole new one based on what we've got going. So we've got the custom instructions set in place. Again, GPT-4 plugins. We're going with memory bank per usual, link reader, and we're stacking on SEO Core AI, which uses AI to analyze and improve SEO of a website, get advice on websites, keywords, and competitors. Realistically, all we're looking for is that middle part there. We're looking for get advice on keywords and competitors. So not even competitors. Honestly, we're talking about social, so we're just looking at keywords. All right, so we've got everything set up in terms of instructions. We're going to go over to LinkedIn Larry, and we're going to pull the persona. And it's even got the Hey GPT aspect in there. And we're just going to punch. Probably going to shoot us a dummy post, I'm assuming. Otherwise, it'll ask us. Yep. So here goes the dummy post. Now, notice a lot of see what it's doing in this dummy post is pretty typical. I actually like this. It's not too bad. Yeah, here come the emoticons, and you can also see that it's doing special formatting. At least this is just at the beginning. It's not special formatting that it's trying to do throughout the post. Now, if you know me, you know that I don't use emojis. I actually hate doing that. So here's a really interesting mechanic that I've started using that I really like. I find that it's fairly effective, and I say fairly effective. It's like close to 95%. It's it's really it's in the upper 90s in terms of the level of effectiveness that it has. It's been having, I'm not gonna lie, been having some hardships with keeping this one consistent. I wish I had it like really played out and more consistent so that I could like constantly push out the output that I expect. But it's really close enough that I use it quite often. So basically, it's loaded up with that persona. We're not really looking to do that per se. The basis of it is good enough. The way that it's writing is good enough, right? We're not seeing a whole lot of we're not seeing a whole lot of like buzzwords, trash words in here. Not seeing a lot of let's do a deep dive. Let's dive into it. That kind of stuff. It's doing the uh, question opener, which is what I typically like to do. I know if you guys have been following my posts for the last couple months, you'll notice there's usually a question opener. There's either a question opener or a statement opener, one of the two. And then I usually either have a question ending or a statement ending. So let's start with it. I'd like to what I'm going to do is I'd like to create a rule set. Well, let's just say a set of rules. Reads follow. These rules are going to be ongoing and get changed throughout our engagement session. Please follow the rules as they are written and never disregard them. Okay. Again, notice that I'm using please, thank you, a lot of that stuff being courteous. It's been picked up even more. Like the last week, it's been picked up more that GPT definitely responds better the more positively you work with it. So now we've got it primed for the rule set. So let's begin. Whoops. With rules. So we're going to say rule one, never use emojis or emoticons. Now I've tried just emojis before. I've tried just emoticons. Doesn't seem to always scrape it out. So if you use both combined, seems to work better. Rule two, never use any special formatting that would include bold letters, words, bold or italicized, I think, words or letters. I'm going to go with rule three for right now. Let's see. No, we'll leave it alone. Okay. Always read the rules before responding. Okay. Okay. Should have asked to memorize rules ahead of time, but he doesn't know how awesome I am at doing stuff ahead of time, right? Okay, so now we got the rules memorized. We can proceed. What we'd like to do next. So, like I said, most of the time I'm listening to a podcast or something. This is the bot that I use for that purpose. I'm listening to a podcast. Something gets mentioned. I don't have the time to really look into it. I don't have the time to jump over and go type in and go do the Google search and look for the story about the thing and pull the perfect story or whatever. So let's just say that I'm doing that. This is Feedly. This is the first tool. This is how I first started without GPT. This was how I was staying on top of AI news. And let me tell you, it's great, but even after a while, look, you can see the time frames on these things, right? So again, when I say staying on top of AI news, I mean on top of it by the hour, by the minute, by the day. And at first, this was pretty easy. And when I was using Feedly, maybe half of these stories were read, right? Because it was, again, easy for me to keep up with. There weren't really tons and tons of new advancements being made every day, even though it seemed like it was really just a ton of advancements being made with GPT. There wasn't a ton of advancements being made globally across industry sectors. So now that's the case. So now practically every story involves AI because it's starting to make its way into every single industry. So, how to reduce AI hallucinations with these 6 prompting techniques. Okay, I hear about that on a podcast. I'm listening to it. So I'll say, "Hey, GPT, I heard there's a recent story. Now, this it might not come out, it might not work perfectly 17 minutes ago. I don't know that it's going to be able to pick that up. I've tried this before with a super recent story. Didn't work out too well because there was only the reason this may not work right is because there was only one outlet that had pushed the story. So it may be the case that this outlet is the only, let's see who put it out, make use of. Okay. So it may be that make use of is the only place that has this story. We'll see. So I heard that there's a recent story involving ways that you can keep GPT from working with it. You think you can track that down and create a LinkedIn? Wow, today is special. Okay, so now it's gonna go take a look, see what it can find. Looks like it found quite a bit. I use link reader again. It's going to take the best, it's going to pick an article. And I believe it picks an article based on how much, let me think about this, picks an article based on how much content is able to be lifted from the top story, let's say, right, related to the topic. Okay, so here comes our post. Seems as though, right, provides a comprehensive review. Okay. I think that's a part of what it was using in link reader there. Okay, so here's the post. In the bustling world of AI and machine learning, one term. So again, think about this in terms of how it gets posted. Think about posts that you read every day that you come across, even my posts. You'll see what the process is here. Okay. Now, I think it looks like it's weird. My eyes are failing me at this point because it looks like special formatting, but maybe it doesn't. Anyhow, so how do we navigate the maze? I do a lot of that where I break things up with a one-liner, nicely formatting prompt chaining, nicely formatting pre-processing and post. Here's input and posts, GPT outputs. Nice. Okay, so this is really more about this. So again, just reading this summary, I know that this isn't something I can necessarily post to you guys because it's not really relative. Just the fact that it mentions API calls, right, makes me want to go back into the story, and then I'm going to go find where it mentions API if it does. Looks like look at the hallucination that came from the story. Oh, that's right, because this isn't the same story it used. Hold on a second. Can you show me the source? Okay. Now I want to see. I think it's going to go, yep, right in the memory bank. user-defined rules for our engagement, right? One, never use emojis. Two, never use special formatting. And now three, always include sources for the posts, right? So the new rule's been added to the set. Here's the revised LinkedIn post with the source included. Notice it said here's the revised, not here's a revised. There's there is a difference there. Trust me. A lot of times when it says here's a revised, you're not going to want to use that because it actually did change the language quite a bit. Okay, so here's the source that it found. That is so great. Okay, apparently it opens up with a meme. Object. That is great. That is so great. Okay, so TLDR, instead of fine tuning, we use a combination of prompt chaining and pre-post processing to reduce the rate of hallucinations by an order of magnitude. However, it did require 3 to 4 times as many calls to OpenAI. So the fact that it took 3 to 4 calls to OpenAI, and this is something that's being done on somebody who's like programming something either through Python or whatever it might be, not something that's totally relatable to you guys because not something that most of you are familiar with, but it's something that is worth posting about for me to you guys because again, having gone through it, having understood it, now I can say, all right, well, what is it? How does this relate to you guys? It relates to you guys in that the way in which GPT is going to get used and modified over the short course of time now and over the recent future. I don't know if this is going to be something that you're going to be able to apply while working with GPT face to face. I'm sure it is. I'm sure there's a way in which you can do that. But I know for sure that it's something that's going to be taken into consideration, especially when it comes to GPT-5, right? Hallucination is the sort of not number one concern, but it's pretty damn close. Okay, so back over to LinkedIn. And boom, there's the post. And we're going to go ahead and just put this into the format that you guys are normally used to seeing. Pre-post, catch, and then we'll do this. Yeah, that was from a different article that we didn't end up using. This came from Medium, so we'll grab the link, double space the bottom, paste that in there. Where is the preview? That sucks. Figures that everything else works now, except for that. All right, hold on. Just cut all this and then delete this altogether. Let's refresh. Maybe that's a thing too. All right, post the whole thing. There we go. Okay, I hope that should get plenty of attention. Okay, so ready to make it more trustworthy. Have you encountered hallucinations in your journey on AI? Share your experiences. Okay, so that one I actually like. I don't ask you guys questions a lot, but that one I like. Far more API calls, but okay. So the catch is going to be, right now, here we go, the catch. Most of you, since you're not using private apps with GPT or as API, but it's good to know that there is a lot of headway being made in the realm or in relation to reducing hallucinations with GPT. There we go. Had to replace one thing. Next lead comes from, yep, that's all fine. That's all fine. No, we're not talking about psychedelic. Okay, so been making headlines hallucinations. So I usually just do comma hallucinations. And that's something that's concerning to everybody. So we'll place hashtags in there. So here we go. And let's go through this. Prompting is a word that people use often. Obviously GPT. Obviously GPT-4. We're not going to worry about API and AI. Okay, done. Posted. Yeah, let's stretch it over to that group. Who cares? I wish that LinkedIn gave you the ability to like pick which group that you want to post to. Doesn't like it. You just have to go post to whatever the suggested group is. Okay, so that's one and done, right? From when I heard about it to when I did this to LinkedIn, I don't know. Again, actively working on it without talking to anybody about it. Minute, 2 minute, like 2 minutes tops if I'm like really concerned with what's going on here. Okay. So let's add another rule to lower the amount of time I'm spending doing this. Okay. So rule number 4, use hashtags within the post. Let's see. We'll go with another one, and I'll show you why. So let's say so we got another story, right? Can grade the student's essay as well as a human, but it cannot replace a teacher. Okay, well, not really too interested in that. Unlocking social media success with SEMrush's AI-powered post generator. Okay, so let's go talk about SEMrush's post generator. There's an article about SEMrush new post generator. Can you find out I should have said, can you please? But you guys, you can see where this is going in terms of like what I'm able to do without having to use URLs, have it go do the research for me, and then come back and give me the answers I need, come back and give me the resources I need. Again, without me having to do like a ton of work at all. There we go. Now, one thing I am noticing that I'm not particularly happy with is that it is not reading the rules before before it starts posting. So hold on a second. Okay. It always does this, right? And it seems like it's because that's part of the persona that I gave it is to ask engaging questions at the end of every post. Okay. I'd like to add another rule. Rule 4. Whoops. Rule 4. Or actually, let's see. You create a list of the top hashtags. Okay. Because I want to go, again, I want to go one step further in order to not have to do quite as much the next time around. All of this is just iteration, right? So straight out the gate, without having to do much, one post. Okay, so now I'm just making like a little bit of, some tweaks. So now we're using SEO core to find out what the top SEO relevant words are within the post, right? Include the, whoops. Relevant, adding the hashtag at the front of the front of the word. Okay. Always use the top 5 ranking tags. I did say, can you? I'm trying, folks. I'm trying to keep my formatting the way that it should be. Okay, so it's doing that. There we go. Put it on the top 5. I don't know where the next one's gonna land. There we go. Okay, so now I've got the post as well, so I know where the copy link address is going to be. Boom. Oh, I'm going to grab all that. Again, come back over to LinkedIn and go to our post. I'm going to say, yeah, it's pretty good. Now I don't have to hashtag anything either. Okay. And let's see, what minor editing might I have to make here? Again, I don't ask you guys a ton of questions all the time. So let's see. Let's just knock that all together. It's completely free and allows you to generate up to 20 posts a day. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Okay. That's not something I normally do, but who cares? And there you go. So now I don't usually say it's completely free. I usually say it's $3.99. All right. Yeah, notice it's not saying let's do deep dive. It's not saying game changer. It's not saying any of the normal BS words that you would hear or you would see in AI posts, right? Again, due to the instructions, due to the persona, you combine these two things together, you're doing a lot less work. Okay. So here, I mean, you guys, you could use, I actually want to pull that up and then push this down. You could use emojis if you want to. Sometimes I do that, right? Sometimes we'll use arrows. And that's about as far as my emoji use tends to go. I definitely, again, you guys know me. I just don't like to use them. It's not my style, right? So I'll go ahead and post some producers. I should have scheduled that, but I don't care. Because now it's gonna seem weird that I'm just spamming with posts, but hopefully it separates it out for people. Okay, so that's essentially, I'm so glad I actually was able to get that in the full hour. But again, I just want to go over it. Okay, so again, writing style, very, very different for these writing style preference instructions. Again, do employ storytelling techniques, transitional phrases like in the, of the, to be, to create natural flow. Don't the don't for writing style. Steer clear of jargon heavy or overly complex sentences. Jargon heavy, right? That's one of those things where it's like, hey, if you're using marketing jargon, sales jargon, basically where that term can relate is where it's going to pick up words that it should not use. Sentence structure, you guys have seen it. It's pretty good sentence structure in terms of creating posts in a way that makes it easily digestible for you guys so that you're not like having to read a whole lot. Pretty soon, I'm actually going to start incorporating a to sum it all up section that's kind of going to replace TLDR at any rate. So the input instructions or the bio instructions, wait, let me finish going over this. Tone and punctuation, use exclamation marks to highlight exciting points or achievements, interspace your content with questions to engage the audience. There is a little bit of that going on, the questions in between, excuse me, but not a crazy amount. So that's within bounds. Again, anything that I wanted to modify, okay, and here's one thing I want to add and see if it'll jog its memory. Okay. I just want to make sure that it's actually doing this before it starts writing a post. Even though it's still remembering what it's not supposed to do. So it forgot the fourth rule. Don't like that. use relevant on the top five words related to the topic. Place hashtags at the beginning of the word, such as. Now I'm gonna, I'd like to give it an example. Let's see. Allows you to create up to hashtag AI posts per day. Okay, quite a bit of context to that rule, but it's somewhat necessary. If I don't tell it where to place that hashtag or show it an example of how to do it, it does tend to get a little screwy. Okay, so nicely, it's going back to like what it was doing before. Yeah, see, so AI related to the topic. Thankfully, it's not going crazy overboard with it. Sometimes it'll do that. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, there's still an almost overt use, but at least it's on like social media, not social media, AI and marketing. I'm not even gonna joke. I didn't know AI and marketing was a popular hashtag. Right. So again, that's why this bot is so useful with these particular tools. Okay, so let's go for one more post. You bought this. Yeah, Feedly's kind of good for this. I wouldn't buy too much into these recommendations. If you pay attention to AI stocks in general, that's better than trying to go off of any news outlet about AI stocks. That's all I can say. Just if you're looking at AI stocks, go do independent research. In particular, you're looking for companies that if you're looking at long term, you're looking at companies that have government contracts. That's going to be your best long term bet. Outside of that, for long term, look at what I would call blue chip AI stocks, which would be Nvidia, it would be Microsoft, it would be OpenAI, it would be Intel, it would be AMD, like these companies that are just going to be churning this stuff out, that it's not going away, it's always going to be there. AMD on two fronts, because of the fact that they are the other major graphics card producer outside of NVIDIA. So they are actually starting to ship their cards. I forget, I want to say like now to the end of the year, or it's going to start Q4, something like that. Anyhow, those are blue chips to look into if you're trying to, put an investment into something that's cheap, that's going to break out for a while. I don't know that you're going to be able to find cheap. Most of this stuff IPOs at $20 a share, $25 a share. I haven't seen anything that's IPO'd under $10. If you do happen to see something that goes public under 10, definitely worth dropping, a few bucks into. But I don't even want to get into it because I don't play the stock market the same way as other people. I play too safe. I'm a long-term guy. I'm not a short-term guy, so I don't even know how to advise on short-term stuff. But again, if you're looking at doing stock market related AI moves, I highly suggest long-term in what I would say blue chip AI stocks, because you're not going to lose out. They aren't dependent solely on the American market. They're global, right? And two, they're not going anywhere ever. It's like putting money in Amazon. It will be there forever. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. So let's see, just one more story. Using GPT to plan your meal prep. Let's see. Tech Bros, I like that. Tech Bros lecture at Congress. Okay, about AI, like school children who weren't allowed to raise hands. That absolutely doesn't surprise me at all. If you guys have been following what goes on the Hill with regards to these, I mean, look at Zuckerberg. He still looks like he's 20 for crying out loud. If you've seen pictures of him back when he was 20, practically nothing has changed. Anyway, it has to be frustrating, so frustrating to be so smart in a room full of so many not smart people, specifically related to the topic at hand. Okay. One of the government, the weak point, the greatest weak point of the government is its absence of intellectual prowess in relation to technology and its ignorance towards thinking that technology was never going to pass it up in terms of technology was never going to pass up the process of how government operates, or it was never going to pass up the knowledge that government was going to need to know about a certain thing. The government's been dealing with TikTok, right? They've been dealing with Facebook. They couldn't understand how monetization works. They didn't understand ad advertisement on social networks and somehow understand ad advertisement on TV, but could not make the connection that those two things are exactly the same. So that's, again, I understand where the frustration is likely coming from with these guys. Okay, so again, we're looking at this article. Okay, Congress having to be taught like school children who aren't allowed to raise hands. So, AGBT, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. Okay, we're just gonna just in the middle there. I've heard there was a recent story about tech giants of AI going to Washington to attempt to educate the Hill on current AI progress, creating, I don't know, what do they call it? AI safety regulations or policies or something like that. Can you see if you can find out anything about it to create a LinkedIn post related to it? So I really like doing this method, mainly because I'm sort of like half challenging GPT by asking it if it can do this. So it's not only that I'm asking it to go do something, I'm also, again, there's like a little bit of a challenge behind it between, and I don't know how much that affects it or if that affects it or not. Okay. This is more about like why it matters, which is not too bad. Yeah, this is more, yeah, because Elon's name just came up. That's more about last week. Now, notice it went through link reader, but it also, again, forgot to read the rules. I kind of want to know what's going on there. I love when it takes a minute to respond too. Okay, let's see. Let's see if it does. Okay, apply rules to the above, to the last post. Last post. Well, actually, no. Would you like to work on anything else? Yes. The story I was looking for. I don't want to say ineptitude. Talks about how difficult a time Congress is having understanding all this new tech. And that they are having to be taught like school children. I want to go as far as I can without having to give it the URL. I know that it can do it if I just give it the direct URL. I know that it can. That's old school stuff. I liked being able to do this without having the actual story because it's one of those things. Again, it's an ask of let's see. Nah, that was too far back. Paints a vivid picture. Lawmakers. That's not bad though. That's not bad. Okay, so here's an interesting one. Here's a thing that I was doing before. I want to take this one since it's brand new. I say, can you compare? Can you take the yeah, let's just say the meat article and how things were back in March, and compare them to this article, which is about the same topic. However, it is more recent. Okay, so let's see if it can pull the article from Futurism. Let's see how old it is. Just broke today at 5:30 a.m. Hopefully it can. Awesome. Not exactly. Okay. Not bad. Not bad, but it's a little short, right? Let's see. Seems a little short. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, there is, you know, I always forget that. Let's see. Maybe there isn't. There may not be. I might be asking a question that has no relevance. Maybe, you know, and that's part of the flaw. I should have asked if there's anything different between back then and now. But here we go. Okay. All right. I like that a lot better. Now, it is broken up into the March scenario of recent future events. To me, again, these aren't really that big a deal, right? Let's see. Unanswered questions. I like it. Okay. So now that in a rapidly evolving AI landscape part, that this is common. It's commonplace. Seen it not only in I let it go in my posts like one every 20 or something like that. Like once every so often, or great once in a while. I try not to let it get in there too often because of the fact that like it comes off as disingenuous. So that's something that I would change. But again, throw that in there. It's pretty good to me. Now, the only thing I change here is I'm just taking out these headers because it's really not really unnecessary, right? There's let's see. Nope, didn't bother to use a. So here we go with the overt use of hashtags on areas that are not relevant necessarily to the story, right? So starts to get a little bit garbled. Let's see. So let's see. At least I'm not really having to re-explain everything again. Having created a rule set, I can at the very least I can say, read the rules and apply them, so that I'm not really having to go through a whole lot. Double AI again, I don't necessarily care. Like, shouldn't be doing that. But you know how shouldn'ts work. AI regulation. I guess because regulation was the only aspect of that related that was tech wordy, right? It should have put technological knowledge in there too, but okay. So without having to go through that too much, AI. Let's get rid of how many times that's getting thrown in there. Okay, so knocking that out. Instead, we'll go to government. That's related in that way. Go to futurism article, actually, because that's a known medium company. Senators were the type of people there. Congress is where this is happening, and not really. Okay, that's pretty much it. Notice that I'm not really reading I mean, I am. I'm skimming, like, even though I'm not reading it to you guys, I am actually skimming the article as I'm going through it for the word, like, verbiage that's being used. So it's not it's absolutely not outside the scope of what I would say. It's absolutely not crazy different from the language I would use. Drop AI in here because I don't want to. There you go. That's all I had to drop is just that lame ass overused intro. And that's it. So earlier New York Times article said that. Fast forward to a present, futurism article says this. Got the space available at the bottom. Come back to the come back to the write-up, copy link address, paste here. Now we've got our picture with the header. Schedule this one for later. Where are we at? 11:15. 12:30 sounds good. Scheduled. Done. Done day. Walk away. So that's, in terms of writing social content, I think this is like one of the better ways to go. You guys have seen like a lot of the other personas that I've used with relation to this social media poster. It can get really, really, really insane. Excuse me. Especially once you get your own data pulled down. Let me go ahead and get rid of these guys. These were all like tests to try to get things to where they're at right now. Chain of density is something that I'm messing around with, and I haven't quite gotten it to where I want it to be, but I will show you guys that when I do get to it, because it is definitely a nice little game changer with how things go. That was a bit different as well. Custom instruction creator. I've kept this one around for a while because it's really, really, really good at creating custom instructions. So that's another thing, guys, is how do I go about doing that kind of stuff? All right. So let's create a custom instruction block. So hey there, GPT. I want to create some custom instructions to use for ChatGPT, and I need you to go research how these instructions work, and how they are, let's see, how they are best written, and how to make them the most effective. Can you please research this info and let me know what you find? Okay, so I want to do that, but Let me hold on a second here. Paste that here for the time being. Just need to hold on to that. Okay, I just need to go grab my regular output. Let's see. No, not really. No, not really. No, not really. Who am I looking for? Who am I looking for? August? No. What? Huh. What am I gonna use? What am I gonna use? You know what? Yeah, let's go with prompt creator. Okay, so we take the prompt creator and we come over to the bio and we replace that. Done. And then we come back over here and we go to the output. That and replace this guy with that. So notice that I'm again, I'm using different tools to get different jobs done. I'm using different bio and preferences to get different results because this is not social media related anymore. Now what I'm doing is research related, it's technical related. I'm trying to build a technical thing out. So I need to be using a more technical setup. Okay. So now we can go back here and we'll grab this ask. And we'll come back to GPT and we'll say, hey, do this stuff for me. So now it's going to go out. Doesn't matter that I have the SEO thing in there. Could have been anything, but now it's going to go out and it's going to try to do as much research as it can about custom instructions. Now it's probably going to find the wrong thing. Let's see. Okay, it found the right thing. Yeah. So if this is like sort of a sort of verifier on like how I know it found the right thing outside of the initial response, this kind of told me that it was in the right direction, and then this told me that it found the right thing. Sometimes it reads custom instruction as like persona or given preference or something like that through the conversation as opposed to understanding that it's a new feature. So at any rate, how to write effective custom instructions. So it understood that. Additional features, plugins that can go with it, limitations to it, privacy, performance, but can disable this via your controls, availability, and contextual suggestions. So these are contextual suggestions that it's being given or that are being given to me based on the instructions that I just gave it. Okay. I'd like to know more about how. Are you interested in understanding, or would you like tips on crafting? Start with number 3. Okay. So this is quite literally in the event. So imagine that you started this out, right? Again, and you didn't know anything about writing custom instructions. You didn't know how to write custom instructions. You don't know how it works. You just ask it. It's so worthwhile, guys. Like, again, like I don't work for OpenAI. I don't get any sort of residuals or something like that. Everyone I have talked to that has that has upgraded to Plus, that has used Plus in any fashion whatsoever will tell you it's absolutely worth the 20 a month. Absolutely worth it. It's the best $20 a month that you could possibly spend. Claude came out with a paid plan, and it is, look, Claude's great, and I use it for stuff. It is a pain in my ass when the limiter comes up on that thing, and it's not even like number of messages per 3 hours. You could be using it in the morning, the limiter will pop up and it'll say can't use Claude again till 3 in the afternoon or something like that. It's pretty ridiculous. I kind of want to buy it, but I don't use it as much as I do GPT. I use GPT at least 2, 3 times an hour, not 2, 3 times a day, 2, 3 times an hour easily, just to do whether it's to reformat something on a spreadsheet that I know that it's going to take 30 seconds to do that would otherwise take me 5, 10 minutes to do it. Even if I'm shaving 5 or 10 minutes, I'm using it anyway. So with a little bit of work and just a little bit of asking with some plugins enabled, now I know everything there is to know about writing all these different types of custom instructions. Okay. So again, we've got some suggestions, contextual suggestions, right? And all that means is that it's giving me suggestions based on the context of what it is that we're talking about. Do we want to dive deeper? See that deep dive thing. That's a thing that's a BS term that it knows that is like common English language for some reason. I mean, even with HubSpot, right? HubSpot deep dive sessions, right? It's a marketing jargon term. Would you like to dive deeper into how to use custom instructions? Are you interested in learning? Would you like to explore the limitations and the challenges? I'd like to create a series of custom instructions. Are there different types of instructions to be used with GPT, such as input and output? Let's see. There you go. I don't know why it bothered to give me the limitation aspect of things because it already knew the information I was asking it about. At any rate, it understands that the inputs are not separate instructions, but rather the prompts or questions you ask the model. Yeah, that's different from what it is that we're trying to do. Can you look at data feature for custom instructions to see if there are not different instructions that can be used. If there are different instructions are that serve separate. Now, man, sometimes it is really tough to word what it is I want to word without confusing GPT because, again, context is king, right? So, okay, when I go into custom instructions, there are two boxes. Write things in. Which box is for what type of instruction? Yeah, stop. Okay, it keeps doing that. Can you, let's see, can you find out which is for which? Hopefully, can you find out? Allow us to go search. Thank you. Yes, not miraculously, we went over time. What what else is new? Almost. Almost want to say that. Okay, so it went to go find out about it. When you go to set up custom instructions, first text box, user information. Here's what the purpose of it is. Here's what examples you can use, and here's what the effect would be. And tailor its responses for you. For instance, if you mention that you live in San Antonio, Texas, and later ask for restaurant suggestions, GPT will automatically display results from San Antonio, right? Because it knows that you live in that area. Second box, response preferences. Box for adding instructions that guide GPT on how it should respond to your queries. You can specify how long or short, formal, casual. Instructions will influence the tone, length, and style of GPT's responses to your queries. So that's why when you see the instructions that I've written, like I said, I've already went through this process before with the custom instruction chat. Knowing this is how I was able to create all of these. Right? That's why these instructions look really different from what I was working on like way before. Okay. Now these are personas that work for these. So it's like post instructions, give these personas on top of it. So what I end up doing is like threefold. I give it a set of user information, I give it a set of response preferences, and then I give it a persona on top of that. Okay. Character limit thing is a uh, character limit thing is something that I'm still working on. It doesn't really seem to understand what character limit is, doesn't understand it very well. So again, it always helps to give it context. So when it has written something that does actually hit the character limit that you're looking for, it helps if you actually tell it, hey, that's on track. That's exactly the length I was looking for. Because then it actually remembers that, like, hey, okay, that was around whatever the length was that they wanted. So if you make reference to it again, it'll have an example to go back and say, okay, well, it needs to be at least this long. Okay, so by filling out the two boxes thoughtfully, you can significantly influence how GPT interacts with you, making the conversations more aligned with your preferences and needs. Okay, so what we want to do, let's just build out, let's just go through how we built out LinkedIn Larry, right? So first text box, user information. Would like to use these, let's see, gave it any references. Let's see. I would like to create instructions for these two boxes that are relative to what a social media influencer would have would want to use. Set of instructions for these two boxes that that are what a social media influencer would want to use to increase their brand awareness. Sure, let's go with that. There we go. Tell us why. Okay. Okay. I really hate, like, I really hate number 5 so much. I really do. Even though I know what's funny is this is because of these guidelines is how I can determine whether or not someone else is using AI to write their post. Because when I see this on your post and I see it on enough of them, I know you're not writing them. There's no way that you're constantly asking that. First of all, there's no way that there's even a purpose to asking questions on some of the topics that people post about. That's sort of like a gimme. And second of all, if you're doing it on every single post, that's not like, oh, I always do that. That's like you're forgetting or something like that. It's I don't know what to tell you. Again, because you're doing it on every single one, it's going to be weird when you do them on posts that don't really have a purpose of having a question asked to it. So include hashtags like this. Again, if like you've seen me work on my stuff now, you've seen what my sort of not necessarily pattern is, but the way in which I use GPT with writing. So you know that if the hashtags are dumped at the end, that's not my post, right? And typically when you see this include hashtags, it doesn't know to include them in the copy it's writing. It just includes them in part of the post, knowing that it's pulling off of uh, the typical LinkedIn sort of styling. It's going to dump them at the end. let's see. Even though, yeah, include relevant hashtags at the end. Always end with call to action, encouraging. Okay, contextual responses. Okay, can we tailor this for a? Let's see, for a. Let's be really specific, right? LinkedIn. That works in the digital marketing space. Specifically related to CRM technologies. It has a VASP has a very strong, let's see, overwhelming. Yeah. Generative AI capabilities. As well as, okay. Mid-40s. And only post on LinkedIn audience is primarily, let's see, business professionals, CEOs, owners, leaders in their industry. Okay, let's go with that. So that's a little bit more context than I'd like to create instructions for 2 boxes that are what a social media influencer would want to use, right? So now we're getting really detailed into who that influencer is. Okay, give them the background, blah, blah, blah. Don't really care about that. First text box, user information, B2B professional, mid-40s, AI technologies, catering to, right? Platform and goals. Now look at the difference between that, right? Profession, industry target, content, themes, and goals, right? Leadership, networking, and industry influence, as opposed to just brand awareness. Now, the other one was based on brand awareness, but still. Okay, so the example text here, B2B professional in digital marketing, specializing in CRM technologies, mid-40s, blah, blah. Goals are to establish thought leadership, expand my network and influence of the industry. Please remain a professional and insightful tone. I prefer medium to long-form content that is suitable for in-depth LinkedIn posts. Structure the content with subheadings for easy skimming. I don't like that necessarily. Incorporate keywords such as digital transformation, customer relationship management, and AI and marketing, and future of tech. Always conclude with questions to encourage. Again, don't like that. Contextual suggestions. Would you like to know more? Measure the interested in how these instructions. Would you like to explore? It can be adapted for different types. No. Let's see. No. Let's apply these to create for this influencer. Let's start. Let's start with finalize it. On to the let's see if it would like to do that. Start by crafting the instructions for the user information box. The initial draft. Okay. this. Okay, so didn't ask it to do anything, just told it like, hey, we should be around this. So we're gonna expand this bit. Okay. A little bit more of a comprehensive view. User's background, expertise, interests, and goals should help GPT generate responses that are highly aligned with the user's persona. Okay. All right, let's set this to the side. Come over to our doc. Again, just keep a doc open, right? Call this new LinkedIn area. Okay. And so these are the, I mean, I know from doing this enough, I don't have to necessarily label it and say, like, oh, these are the input instructions. Okay. I like to break these apart so they read more like instructions and less like just a giant paragraph of stuff. I don't know why. I feel like when it takes stuff in chunks, it's it digests it and remembers it a little bit easier. Okay, so we're gonna start there and insert that horizontal line because we're gonna need it. Come back over here and we'll say, okay, that's great. Now we want to do the response preferences. Well, you know what? I'm going to take a page out of Leonard's book here real quick. Is there anything, are there? You might make to increase of this information. Okay. Engagement goals, language and tone. So here we're getting an even more expanded version of what we had started out with, right? Nice. Much better, much better, and much more well defined. Okay, so we're actually going to come back to our instruction set that we came in the first place. First, I want to make sure this is going to fit. Just over. My gosh, that is so perfect. Okay, so I'm straight up going to replace those. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and separate these out. It didn't add like a ton to it, but it added enough. Again, I know this seems like super annoying to you guys. It's just habit for me at this point. Whoops. Okay. Out. And approachable tone of all my interactions. Let's see. Interactions. Let's see. There we go. All right, that'll do. Okay, so we've got that. Now we're looking for the, what is it? The response preferences. Okay. Okay, we'll give it some positive affirmation. And I guarantee you what it's doing here is it's saying user really prefers what we just wrote for them. It's memorizing this as example, even though I didn't ask it to do that. I've saved it for future reference. Okay. I didn't even have to ask it. I was moving ahead of the game. Okay. All right. So here's the initial. Now, hopefully it's doing this. Okay. I'm assuming that it gave me this based on the former. Okay. Would you like to make any adjustments to the initial draft before we finalize it? Yes. I'd like you to use the example, apply it, apply the same to the response preferences. Okay. And then we're gonna make some tweaks here because I really don't like that end with the question stuff and all that other nonsense. Let's see. Okay. Okay. Okay, a couple of changes here. Okay, questions should be spread at the most when relevant and not overtly. Questions maximum per post. Also I'd also like to have it incorporate less than okay, let's see if we can toss that in there, get it to add that to the crux of it. I'm assuming that it's going to update this. Oh, okay. Skillfully incorporating subheadings. Yeah, let's bulleted list for key takeaways. I mean, that is true, right? And a lot of posts do that. Content rather than planning it up at the end. This will make it more engaging and searchable. You know, that's exactly why. For the hashtags. Post SEO relevant. Top 5 topic. What's being written? Now, I know this seemed like a lot of technical stuff, but again, like we're building something that we're going to like the entire point of this is to build something that you don't have to touch again, right? You build one set of instructions and then you're done and then you move on. And so you spend maybe like a half hour to an hour building something that you never have to touch again that that only takes you a minute or 2 minutes after thereafter to do what you needed to do. Okay, so this is probably, let's see, there was something in there, incorporating subheadings. Yeah, we'll rip that out for the structure of the post. Okay, otherwise I like it. Copy, paste. All right, get rid of that. Spruce that up a little bit. Okay. Okay, generate content. Where it's sort of making statements is where I'm breaking up the back of the back end. Okay. Please adhere, generate, incorporate. If possible, do this instead of concluding, do this, incorporate this. Lastly, right? So it reads like, same thing. Here it reads like an intro. I am this currently here. My expertise is this. Over the years, I do this. I'm fascinated by that, right? Like these are individual statements. So that's why I'm breaking them up that way, because they read like individual statements and or individual instructions. Okay, so there's the instructions there. This may actually end up being better than the instructions I'm already using. All right, detailed responses always provide about da da da. That was for technical stuff, so we're replacing that. So we go into a new chat now that we've got all our instructions in place, right? We'll just test and see what this looks like. We can't say how's it going because it doesn't know how to do that. So okay, so happy salutation. Achieving your professional goals. What would you like to focus on today? Would you like to delve into a topic related to CRM technologies, AI and marketing, or perhaps something else that aligns with your expertise and interests? Right. So we already know that the custom instructions are flowing and they're working. Let's go see if we can apply these to post without having to do any additional prompting. Like, let's see if this was tight enough that we don't have to use a persona for it. So, oh, wow, nice. That is something I definitely want to flag and take a look at later altogether. So, create amazing animated videos using Midjourney and Adobe Images. Okay, so can you find out about a recent story that covers how to combine Midjourney and Adobe to create animated videos out of generated images? Didn't ask it to make a post based on that, so I'm really just asking it to find out information related to it. Found several sources that discuss it. Okay. Quick summary. Interesting. Okay, so there's a number of ways of doing it. After Effects makes perfect sense. Now this is like, let's see. I mean, okay, so 4 is not relevant, 3 is not relevant, 2 is sort of relevant. So I think 2 is probably the most relevant. Again, we're going away from the source that we had before, but it looks like there's some animated stuff going on there. Now, this is a 2-hour long stream, so even though that's a source, I'm not sure it's a source that it's going to be able to pull from. So let's take a look at this. Quick guide. Oh, hey, look at that. It's exactly the article that we were looking for. What do you know? So I guess we're going with number 5. Okay, can we, oh, can you please create a LinkedIn post about the 5th topic you found? I love that it's also giving me some thought-provoking questions to ask in there, but again, okay. There it is in today's digital landscape, right? In today's AI landscape. Whereas again, you just chop that off, right? The fusion of artificial intelligence and traditional software tools is not just a trend, but a paradigm shift. That's a sentence in and of itself. You don't need the bullshit starter. Okay, this again, normally I would say like, hey, strip out all the formatting and stuff because I don't like any of that. Normally I would. Now, this is actually really good in the way that it's set up, right? Because this is how you guys should be consuming this post. Key takeaways, thought provoking questions. I don't need to necessarily uh, use those, but here's the problem, right? Is that they are being placed at the very end of this, not in the not throughout the post. Also, not seeing hashtags being placed throughout the post. Okay, so there's a couple pieces missing. Let's see if we can correct them. Intersperse the thought. Relevant hashtag is up. Oops. I'm like staring at it too. Okay. Let's see if we can do a twofer. Normally I'd have to just do one and then the other. Can't believe we managed to stretch it to 2. I didn't expect to do 2 hours today, I gotta say. I have a lot of other stuff going on, so I didn't think I was gonna get there, but we got there. Okay, so now we're getting the hashtags where we need them, right? Future tech. And we're also getting the questions where we want them to be. Now consider you redefine. Is there a question up here now? There we go. Well, see, so that's the thing is like, again, you could just strip that away and you'd still have this aspect of it, right? So it's not bad. It's really not bad. Because I could still use this, right? So here's how I would translate. So I grab this, come back over, drop it. Okay, let's do the typical formatting. Okay. And then we say this. Display collective editing. And videos and customer relationship management. Image manipulation. Let's see, setting up a mid-journey. Okay. There we go. And not really going to need that. Key takeaways, right? Definitely want that. That I don't mind, right? To have as its own category. Okay, so animating in After Effects, having these things set up as separate segments, totally fine. Don't care about that. Let's see. I don't really think like it didn't weave that in as nicely as I would have liked to. So let's just leave it out. This I don't mind because it's actually coming in at a really good spot. Okay, working backwards, which is AI regenerator. It's fine. It explains what that is. Okay, this amalgamation. I definitely wouldn't use that. I would just say combination. I wouldn't even. Yeah, I wouldn't even do that. I would just do that. Okay, and add in the relevant IDs where they're necessary. pretty sure that's where it's gonna stop. I don't think Photoshop has its own thing, right? No, but we can still do Photoshop and After Effects. Okay, that's pretty much it. Key takeaways: I don't want to do it like that. I would rather do it this way. Just do it in a paragraph format. And that's it. Good to go. Give me the image. Okay. 1:30. We did the other one at 12. So we'll do this at 2. Next. Schedule. Done. Okay. So yeah, it took a little bit to make the bot, right? But now the bot's made. And again, if I want to, when I want to make all these uh, adjustments to it, I can, right? We'll go back to this one, to the storyteller. So you end up going from like this, that's like, it's like out of control with the formatting and all this kind of stuff, and then you end up with something like this, which does the formatting in the same way in some cases, right? But then can incorporate everything that you need it to, where you need it to, without having to make as many adjustments yourself. And again, it just makes for a very easy copy paste content generator. So yeah, definitely take a look back at this episode, take a look at how easy it is to put this sort of stuff together. If you want, you know what I mean? If you're just trying to do like that normal uh social media bot type thing, it will do that. If you're, again, I'm not a fan of emojis and like the whole formula aspect of things. I just like writing content. I just like putting the content out there comprehensively in an understandable, digestible fashion for you guys to be able to pick up and understand quickly without having to necessarily go dive into the article and sift through all the details. As long as that's all brought to the surface for you guys, that's the execution. That's the 90% of the execution that I'm trying to achieve. And I think it's done fairly well. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, the level of engagement that I've had since implementing AI as the writer, I'll show you this much. I did take a break. I took a break for a little bit, and I was like, okay, well, we'll just start posting some stuff myself, and we'll see like how that goes. Let me show you what that looks like. When I did decide to do that, if this ever decides to reload. Okay, show results for past 28. This, let's see, is this past 28? There we go. This little lull right here. That's what happened when I tried to just on my own, right? Like just per day. It's not like the amount of posts per day went down. It's not like the quality of the content went down. This is over enough of a time that it wasn't even like a particular day was bad. Okay. It went from AI posts to human posts to AI posts. Had some bad days because, like, too much, got a lot of work going on or weekend or whatever it might have been, right? Lulls happen, but just look at the steady incline is really the case, right? To where we're going from barely breaking 1,000 on a good day to coming down from 1,600, peaking 1,900, peaking 2,400, peaking 2,000. I know that's not a lot for some of you. I get it. A lot of you guys out there. That's not a lot for a lot of you out there. But for me, it's special times. These posts, right? This one was ranking down in like the 1,000 impression range. I just looked at this yesterday. It was down in the 900 range. Again, this one yesterday was down in the like 700 range, 650, 700. They're all just trending up. They're all just gaining steam, gaining traction. For people who are just like, oh, it's engagements. It's all about engagements. Okay, well, there's 4 here and there's 24 here. But this one is dwarfing the hell out of this post, right? And it was made 4 days ago. This one's been up for a week, and that's how much it's gotten. This has been up for 4 days, barely gone anywhere, barely reacted at all, right? So, it just goes to show, really, realistically, how much better. This was one of my own. I posted this the moment it happened, right? When Max friended me, it was one of the sickest moments I've ever had on LinkedIn. Probably the sickest. Yeah, I think it is the sickest moment on LinkedIn for me was when Max fronted me. Um, and yeah, I mean, some of the stuff. Look, 3 weeks old is still getting right, but and stuff that's like a few hours old is still trending its way on up. Let's say uh show right the show release from episode 9 not really even trending all that much. So again, like that's one thing that I wanted to show you guys when it comes to, yeah, but what's the difference? What's the difference between AI stuff and your stuff? Like, why wouldn't you write your own stuff? That's why I won't write my own stuff, because apparently I won't write my own stuff because apparently you guys don't read it when I write my own stuff. But when GPT writes it for me and summarizes it for me, you guys read it like there's no tomorrow. So sorry, I guess. Not sorry. Really? Like when it comes to this, um, I would love to say, I guess I would love to say that's not the case and that it's different or whatever. But like I said, you can't deny the upward trend. It's only going to keep going, and that's fine. Like that's the whole point, right? But I just thought I thought it was important to show that to you guys. I thought it was interesting. I think it's interesting to show that to you guys, that the just the difference between, you know I don't know how to explain it either, and maybe, but well, the one way in which I can't explain it is to say that I'm not a writer. I'm not that great at writing. I'm not a journalist. I don't know how to write engaging content necessarily because I'm not a content writer. I'm not a content writer. I don't have a content writer working for me. I do now, and it's doing an amazing job. So if you thought that this stuff was a joke, if you think that using GPT to write your posts is a joke, if you think that using LinkedIn Lariat to write LinkedIn posts is a joke, it's not. It's so not a joke that you guys are responding to it. That's how well it's working. Okay, so that's it. I'm actually over the 2 hour mark, not surprisingly, and my wife's yelling at me, so I gotta go. But it was awesome. This show was awesome. I'm gonna do my best to edit a lot of the last few episodes and get clips out there. I've been super busy and just swamped and not able to get to it as much as I would like to, but I'm gonna put a schedule together and start doing that as well, and getting those clips out to you guys so you can see it and check it for yourself. But until that happens, and I know I've been a bit off screen. Wow, I guess there we go. Um, no, not that. I don't know. There's some. There it is. Is that? No, that's not the button. That's the button. Should have had it like this the whole time, I suppose. Right? Have myself on screen and have that up there. I wish I would have figured. Yeah, that's whatever. So, yeah, at the end of the day, if you are somebody that's trying to increase your viewership, your presence on LinkedIn, if you're somebody that's trying to increase your reach and you're trying to do it organically, I've seen the posts about people who talk about paying for impressions, paying for engagements, that kind of stuff. If that's the way you want to go, it's the way you want to go. I have always been a fan of just word of mouth and natural growth, 100%. And especially with using AI, I think that's fully possible. The amount of growth that I've had from this time last year, like right around this time last year, a week ago, was inbound, right? And or 2 weeks ago was inbound. And from then until now, I think when I had gone to inbound, I think I had maybe like 100 or so followers, like maybe 150, maybe. And now I have like almost 1,200. So, and a lot of that, a chunk of that came out of inbound, but it's just over the last year, really. Like especially once GPT hit, right? It's just been au natural, as it were. And I'm not trying to force it. I'm not trying to. I mean, if I was trying to force it, you guys would see ads and posts about this show everywhere, all over, all the time, all week long. I'd be advertising the show. If it gets greater viewership, it does. I would love for it to. I'm not trying to say that I'm not going to put any effort behind it, and it just needs to do it on its own. Obviously, nothing ever happened like that. Nothing good ever happens on its own. So that's not going to be the case, but it definitely is going to be the case that, I just want the clips to get out there. I want things to naturally grow as best they can. And eventually I can start elevating the brand a little bit and just the brand awareness. So, like, not so much, and not through advertising and not through, um, paid posts and all that kind of stuff. Just, posting more, just getting the content in the right channels. Inbound marketing is what it's all about. Inbound marketing. Because if I build the relationship with you guys, that's worth more to me than anything else. Building the relationship with you guys so that you go and you talk to other people and you say, hey, you got to check out Nico's show and, check out the stuff that he does. That's worth everything to me. So much more than having paid for anybody to show up, because, like, who cares? If I pay for you to show up, then it's like, then I'm taking a gamble. It's basically what I'm doing is throwing my money at the casino and saying, well, hopefully 5 people out of these 5,000 want to actually continue to watch my content. Right. And I'd rather not do that. I'd rather have the 5 people show up because they wanted to show up and because they found it interesting. So that's it for me, guys, for this week. Hope you guys have a great one. Hope you guys have a great week coming up. Again, I'm going to be away from here, but you'll see a totally different and awesome background from where I am going to be, and look forward to talking to you guys from there. It may be more AI news than demos about stuff. I will definitely work on putting a demo together because I do want to. I might even have a guest on the second week while I'm out there, just to be able to give you guys some content as well. But we'll see how that goes. Till then, thanks for thanks for viewing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming by. And glad you were able to GPT with me.